still here, and work on self is the way. And work on self is the project that we will never stop for as long as we breathe. So, Mr. Accountant Property Guy, what are we working on self today? We are going to touch on a very critical aspect of faith and belief, because this aspect, it has got a serious impact on one's life, on an individual's life. And perhaps from my side, accountant property guy, today let's just engage on this aspect to say, what is your view and how has this aspect of faith or belief impacted you this far? Alright, so my response to that is that, number one, I believe that God is the way, the truth, and the life, and He is the master, and He is the creator of heaven and earth, and He will be the same, still the same God today. You go back then in the history, still God. He was God, and for even in the near future He will remain God. But the critical thing that I would like to outline is that even in the Bible it says faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. So meaning that out of the faith we tend to create in our own mind what and believe what we would like to see, and as and when we work on that same belief, that same kind of mindset, eventually our minds align, eventually our action aligns, eventually the universe align, and at the end, while those things are working out themselves, it will yield to the very same outcome that you had faith for, that you have believed for, because eventually it materialized. So all I'm trying to say here is that I've also learned that I've seen the very same thing that is amazing, the very same thing that is powerful, and I'm still talking about faith, is that it still divides people. People are judgmental, people are discriminative, people are looking down on each other. And I'm talking about different kind of religions that we currently have, that the believers of so and so church, or the believers of so and so religion. You can talk about different kind of religion, talk about the Christians, talk about Buddhism, you talk about atheists and so forth and so on. They talk about Muslims. At the end of the day, these different kinds of groups, sometimes they don't see eye to eye on many things, or they tend to be hard on each other. But my perception is that, according to me, I'm working on myself, because sometimes the project of work on self is so that, again, I come with a solution, asking myself to say, if this thing is a problem on these people, what is my say as an accountant property guy on this? How do I view it? Because like I said, the aim of this podcast is to project a neutral in the midst of where there is crisis. The podcast must bring a light. A podcast where there is no salt, the podcast must add salt, must bring clarity. So my vision or my view while guiding myself, because I'm saying I found myself in the midst of, I've got a friend who is a Muslim, I've got a friend who is a Buddhism, I've got a friend who's in a different kind of religion. So does that mean I need to hate the other one, or only stick around or choose the one that is in line with the same religion that I'm having? But I've learned that no, it doesn't have to be like that, simply because faith and a belief, it's a system. It's something, it's like an engine, what works for you. And again, remember, as people, as individuals, we have got a choice. And the most interesting is even God himself. He's not forcing anyone to a particular religion. Even today, no one can prove that God said all of us we must be Christian, or all of us we must be Muslims, and so forth and so forth. But at the end of the day, the Bible that I read, it encourages us to say, study the word to show yourself approved. Because according to the level that you study, it says, seek, you shall find. Meaning that according to the hunger, according to the desire, how far do you want to understand the things of the Spirit? And that is the answer that you get. So, and believe in me, the deeper you go into the spiritual, the brighter you will be. Sometimes you will even need to study a lot, and sometimes it gets a bit complex. So at the end of the day, you end up choosing what resonates with you. But now let me go to the crux of this. Faith or belief, it is the critical aspect of a human being, of who you are, of your identity. And for me, is that just like a buffet, for instance, you will find different kind of meats. Some you'll find a pork, you'll find a mutton, you'll find beef, you'll find chicken. But if you are an individual who cares about your health, you'll know your blood type, and your dietitian will have advised to say, based on your blood type, based on the kind of the person that you are, the food that will be best for you in terms of digestion, in terms of supporting your system, will be this and this. Let's say, for instance, let's say your suitable meat to eat, it's mutton, for instance. So meaning that at a buffet you'll have everything, but you have a choice. It doesn't mean that all the food will kill, or some will do bad things, but if you are clever, you will stick to what you know works best for you. Because even if you go beyond what works best for you, it means that, of course, there will be some damage. You'll be punishing your body, because meaning that the body will still digest, but it will digest at a disadvantaged. Meaning that it's like someone when he's working overtime, or it's like someone doing the kind of the work that he or she doesn't like. So I was just giving that example. So what am I saying? So all I'm saying is, like, in this thing of faith, in this thing of religion, firstly, if you are a Christian, you know that Christian works well for you. Christianity resonates with you. Like myself, I'm a Christian. I spend much of my time on it, seeking to understand, seeking clarity, working on the key things. But yet I've learned that I should not have a myopic mindset, or I shouldn't be naive to not be interested in terms of other religions, because I ought to know still. But the key thing is that knowing how the Hinduism work, knowing how the Islamic work, knowing how other religions work, that doesn't mean after that you forget about your religion, but you learn the principle. In fact, I would say advise that let us learn the principles, not the practice, because in each and every practice that has been done, there is a principle why that kind of practice it has been done. I think if we were to go into detail, we can push and talk about so many things, but here is what I'm trying to tell, that for us to be able to grow, hence there is a book that I always reference to it many times. It's a book by Stephen Covey that says 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because in that book, in relations to this topic that I'm talking about, I will say there is a principle that says seek first to understand so that you will be understood. So it means that how can you influence people? The very same people, let's say for example, one day if you believe that your Christianity or your religion is the one that people must, go to, people must believe in, how can you do that if you don't understand the very same people that you would like to influence? Because it goes back to seek first to understand so that you will be understood. So that is the principle and that is the core. So all I'm bringing this thing is to say is to be unfair, and this is what I've learned to say. Even if I've got friends with different beliefs, with different religion, if I would like to know, and this I'm also teaching myself way beyond even this issue we're talking about here, to say it is critical not to have a small mindset of the mindset of thinking that you know it all, the mindset of thinking that what you know, or if other people do things differently than the way you do, you build a wall to say it's wrong, you are right. No. Mr. Content Property Guy, we are teaching ourselves in this life that many times we need to be the students of life. Meaning that every time when we come across information that is totally different from the way we know things, we need to show the interest, in terms of understanding even be open to say, why do you think things are that way? Because I normally used to think that things are this way. And as we do that, many times we'll be shocked. Many times we'll find new information. Many times I think we'll find some of the answers that we've been searching for a very long time. And many times we'll find ourselves being in the new wells that we have never been before. But at the same time, I'm saying learning, it should be a lifetime thing. And remember, learning is all about always coming across something that is new. You can't tell me that if you've been hearing the very same thing, you are learning. No, learning is all about finding something new, something different, being introduced to a different perception. And that still, remember, learning does not translate to transformation. Because transformation is when after you've learned something, then you go back, you go step further to implement, step further to do practical of what you have learned. So in today's podcast enclosure on this aspect, the key thing that I would like us to take is this, that let's be open. Let us not limit ourselves to grow. Let us understand that difference is good. I just want us, because it's only when we yearn, I think Mr. Baloyi, Mr. B, I can't remember property guy, it's only when you are a student of life that you will go beyond what you are capable of. It's only when you are not challenged, when someone thinks different. It's when you are not intimidated, when you come across someone that is unique, is different from you, different how on terms of how you do things. If you can be that kind of a person, Mr. Conde Propaganda, every time when you see difference, you open up, you get excited to say, this is an opportunity of me knowing the other side. Because I want to also emphasize that knowing the other side doesn't mean you take everything, but remember, you learn, from there you come back, you filter, and after filtering you ask yourself to say, what are the principles that have been driven in that whatever situation that is unique, that is challenging you differently than the way in which you used to do things. And based on that, that's when now we'll be able to grow. That's when now we'll be able to rectify, and that's when now we'll be also going to improve on certain things. So you might find there are certain things that we used to take time in terms of doing it, or certain things that sometimes we used not to be effective and efficient with our resources, but immediately after learning certain things from the other world, then when we come back we will be effective and efficient. So with that being said, I just want to say, let's learn that being different to others is good. Let's not take that as a challenge, as something that as a threat, if I may say. So let's know that we are all in one, and at the end of the day, it's when you are challenged. Remember, growth comes when you are challenged. And challenge normally takes someone out of the comfort zone. Challenge normally sometimes makes you to go back, and do extra research. And that's what we want. Because every time if you are engaging with people that sometimes after whatever engagement, whatever topics that you talk about, they're just normal. They don't force you. They don't stretch your brain cells. For me, that is not growth. And there is a statement that says, if you are not growing, then you are dying. And science has also proved that the cells, they can live or they can remain active for a particular period, because after a number of years, if certain cells have never been used before, science, it says they will die. So let's grow, let's acquire more wisdom, and let's do more. Let's celebrate difference, and let's take advantage, and let's be the daily student of life. So I guess from now going forward, accountant property guy, we know that every time when you come across someone who's challenging us, we're not going to be rude, We are not going to be naive. We are not going to feel threatened, but we will know that this is an opportunity, and then we'll take it as it comes, and we'll be open to learn. Because if we do that, believe in me, we are recording this podcast 10 years down the line will be different. We'll be celebrating, we'll be clapping hands that the project of work on self, indeed, it's a project that we don't regret having took this journey. And that is the conclusion of my podcast today. Let's celebrate the difference. Let's work on self. Cheers, I'm out.